Hey everyone, I wanted to go and do a little recorded version instead of going live because I'm still trying to figure out what do I do with this content. So I have so many platforms that I'm on. I'm trying to find out the best way to distribute the content that I put out there. So thus this video that is not live, pre-recorded content here for you, okay? I did want to stop in and take a moment to record this quick little blurb on my experience this past weekend with a 36-hour fast, and then also talk about the the inner tube of weight that tends to wrap around our midsection as we get older and the causes for that and different ways that you can actually get rid of that, what it's from and how to combat that. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. It's going to be a short video, so hopefully you can glean what you can from this. And yes, so I'll start with the 36-hour fast because I know a lot of people were having questions about that. Now, I'm basing it off of my research, having actually watched a video by Dr. Mindy Pelz, who has written a book called Fast Like a Girl. After watching her video talking about how it's super beneficial for the gut, did this same fast about 8 to 9 months ago. And let me tell you, it was rough. It was so difficult. I was hangry biatch, let's put it that way. I was not a happy camper. And that was before I understood, and before I read her book, number one, and before I understood that fasting has to be done in accordance with your cycle. So it was the wrong time for me, for sure. I was not having it, and it almost took me out. I made it through by sheer power of will, but I was miserable. And I can gladly tell you that this time I was armed and ready, and it was a completely different experience. So what I've learned is that because of our cycles, there are ebbs and flows. Of course, we kind of already know this, ebbs and flows of our hormones, but the specific hormones that we have require us to kind of respond differently. So for instance, estrogen, you're at the top of your game, and that grows right after your period and then starts to build and is at its height probably right before and during your ovulation period, and then starts to decline after that, a slight little bump up for a bit, and then really starts to decline kind of the week before your period, about 10 days or so before your period. And that's where progesterone needs to build. So, and progesterone is a hormone that requires a lot of more chill. Let's put it that way. It asks for more calm in your life, less rush. It asks for more carbs. So if you have ever noticed the week before your period, you want to eat everything under the sun, and especially, the fourth cookie, that's the reason why. So there are ways to manage that, but this isn't about that, okay? We can talk about that at another time. But I did want to just tell you that understanding this led to two completely different fasting experiences with the same amount of time. First one, like I said, horrible. Second one, I literally powered through my entire day. I cleaned, organized, I built storage units. I literally went all day. I did have black coffee and tea, and I did have lots and lots of water and salt. But that got me through my day. I did have momentary hunger, but it went away. And I started 8 p.m. on Friday night, and then I ended 8 a.m. on Sunday morning. So I slept through most of it, and I would highly recommend, if you do want to do this, to do it that way. And I waited until my period started. It's not that you have to do it only then, but it's an ideal time. At least it worked for me. Some of the benefits of this fast is it's also coined by Dr. Mindy to be a gut reset fast, where stem cells in your gut actually begin to reproduce and heal the gut lining. And I can attest, I don't believe it was all placebo. I felt amazing. My stomach felt amazing. And I gently reintroduced food. I did a nice bone broth to break the fast, nice protein to do that. I felt so good. Energy level was fantastic. And my stomach feels fantastic even now. So I wanted to give you a heads up on that. And if you have any other questions about it, anything I didn't cover, please feel free to let me know, and I'd be happy to answer those questions. So just to finish this thing off, I now want to dive into the things you can do to lower your cortisol, because that cortisol, or the stress hormone in your body, actually contributes to that inner tube of weight around your midsection. So how do we do this? How do we lower that cortisol? Because it actually is not good, of course, aesthetically, but also not good mentally, not good physically, not good emotionally. There's a lot of reasons that it should probably take a notch down in our life. Women, I think cortisol is one of those things it creeps up, and I think it's a silent killer. There's a lot of research out there that is connected to high stress that has a myriad of effects, and it's like a domino, right? It starts the domino effect that causes a ton of other issues in the body and in the mind. So there might be a few things that you might not agree with, and that's okay. This is from my own research and my personal opinion, and it might not work for you. I do believe that everyone has an individual journey that they need to go on, and one size fits all should never be the case. Do not let anyone ever tell you that this, because it worked for so and so and so, or because it worked for me, it should work for you. That's not always the case. Sometimes it is, but most of the times it's not. And because you are so much of an individual, and there's so many differing factors that play into your physicality and the things that you experience, like I said, one size does not fit all. So please keep that in mind. Now, a few things that I really want to point out that might help you is, number one, do not drink coffee on an empty stomach. So this might kind of rub some people the wrong way. And if you are an intermittent faster, there are ways around this, okay? So just bear with me. Coffee tends to spike your cortisol, and can also spike your blood sugar. So it can. I'm not saying it does every time, but it can. And so if you are already somebody who is stressed out and you are like leaning on coffee for just bare bones survival, that's probably a good sign that this is a crutch. And there may need to be some changes, unfortunately. And there are ways of going about this. But even worse than just leaning on coffee for absolute survival is doing it on an empty stomach. It can actually lead to sour stomach. Of course, that's a whole nother chat, but it can just skyrocket that cortisol level. So making sure that you actually have something at least in your tummy before you pound that coffee back is probably a really good idea. Okay. Number 2, and this one I'm going to spend a little bit more time on, especially as a group exercise instructor. Okay. A lot of people who are completely stressed out of their mind will tend to run to things like HIIT and sprints or some kind of high intensity interval training type of exercise. And bottom line, these types of exercises are just another form of stress. So coming from somebody who teaches HIIT, please do not take this the wrong way. HIIT is fantastic. HIIT can work to decrease your weight. It can burn fat like none other. So I'm not saying to give it up necessarily, but I do want to give the caveat that if you are somebody who is truly stressed, where your heart races, you can't get good sleep, your job is demanding, you are carting kids everywhere, and you're always running late, and you're always like feeling like you can't control things or you can't get it together and something's always going wrong. If any of those things apply to you, any and all of the above or one or two, then you might be in this state, and adding a HIIT workout on top of it just may not be the right fit for you at this time. I'm not saying that you can never incorporate HIIT into your lifestyle, because I do really believe, and the studies do show, that HIIT can actually burn so much for the amount of time and effort that you put in. Taking your heart rate up and then to the point where you're like dying and then letting yourself recover, that's true HIIT. And if that is used properly in the right circumstances, you can see incredible results. However, like I said, it is a form of stress. And so if you are already in a stressed, completely stressed state, it's probably not the way to start for you. Starting to move, I would even say, if you're not familiar to movement, walk. It's a fantastic way to go. It really, truly is. If you have even remote little tiny hills, fantastic. Or just the other point here is to get outside. Getting outside, getting vitamin D actually decreases that cortisol level. Breathing fresh air in, experiencing the sunshine, taking a moment to just breathe and be. Being outside is one of those things that really assists with that. So there are ways around not having to do a HIIT workout. And I'm not saying that walking is the equivalent of the same caloric burn, because it is not. Obviously, we know that, right? But you've got to start somewhere. And this is one way to get there, okay? Once your stress levels have come down, and there are actual tests that you can do that will help you discover where your levels are at. Once your adrenals calm down, then maybe you do add HIIT back in, okay? So just keep that in mind. Lots and lots of caveats with that one. Okay. Another one, and people are like, yeah, I'll get to that, is breathing, meditation, focus. We are constantly, I feel like, due to all of the stimulation all day long, and depending on your work demands, your home life demands as a woman, and a multitude of things, you may feel, like you can't breathe properly, and you might not be. And I do think that we've lost the art of breathing. There's a book by James Nestor called Breathe, and it is a fantastic way to understand how it affects your physical health. Now, one quick tip that I'd like to give you is diaphragmatic breathing is a fantastic way to calm yourself down. Okay, I teach this in my restore and release classes in my app. So if you're ever wanting a nice session, I also have them on my YouTube channel. You can do a search within my YouTube channel, look for breathing or restore and release or some kind of release in the title, and you'll find that we do incorporate breathing into those classes. Okay, so but it's literally making sure that your diaphragm is engaged and you're breathing deeply in, and hand on the stomach, and you're moving that hand so that it feels like, okay, I'm getting breath all the way down using that muscle, filling the lungs to capacity, and then exhaling out and like pushing the air out like you're an accordion. Okay, you do a few of those breaths, and I'm telling you, it turns off that fight or flight and allows you to go, okay, I'm okay. Because your brain says you're not, especially when those cortisol levels are so high. So incorporating that breathing, also taking time to just slow down. Even if it's a minute, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, start small and then increase a little bit as you go, okay? It's gonna help you tremendously. Just thinking about your day, thinking about what you're grateful for. It doesn't have to be some voodoo magic weirdness. You can just take some time to be introspective. It's good. It's good for you, okay? If you have a pet, a surefire way to decrease stress is to pet your pet. Oxytocin is the top of the chain, the food chain, if you will, of hormones. It's the queen. You want oxytocin, queen or king. It's the feel-good hormone. It makes everything happy and good. And petting your pet will skyrocket oxytocin. Holding a baby, having a hug from someone you love, oxytocin. So take some time, maybe do a little meditation with your puppy in your lap and pet away and just de-stress, right? What a great way to do it. Another great way to decrease stress is to really evaluate your sleep. And we can dive into this a little bit deeper, but if you aren't getting proper sleep, and it's a tough one, it's a catch-22, because if you are stressed out, your sleep tends to not be as good. So it's like chicken or the egg, cart before the horse. Which way do I go? Really, you could go either way. You could decrease your stress and then experience better sleep, or you could try and mitigate some of your sleeping patterns, or incorporate some hacks so that you can sleep better, like an eye mask, like earplugs, like taking a soothing, calming tea before you go to bed. I would not recommend melatonin. It can mess again, with the hormones in your body and cause all kinds of imbalance. But there are many supplements out there that can assist, that are natural in helping that sleep pattern. There's also, Andrew Huberman talks about getting some sunlight exposure to your eyes early in the morning when the sun is rising, so that you set your circadian rhythm, and you have a little bit better chance of being tired at the right time and then falling asleep and staying asleep, okay? So really quick tips here, but I just want to give you something that you can grab onto and maybe see some results, little quick changes and mini things. And finally, eating to nourish your body. So we live in a culture of, the best way that I can term it is self-flagellation. We're constantly beating ourselves up for everything under the sun. We look at ourselves in the mirror and we're just picking out all of our flaws and weaknesses, and we step on the scale and beat ourselves up even more. Like, why can't I do this? It's just constant negativity. And then when it comes to food, it's like this punishment relationship, and it shouldn't be this way. We should eat food for pleasure, yes, of course, but we should also eat it because it brings health and it brings wellness. And grabbing that bag of chips, yeah, it makes you feel good temporarily, but eventually it makes you feel yucky. And you guys are like, yeah, no, that doesn't happen to me. Eventually it does. Eventually it does. So think about what you're putting in your body, how it's causing you to feel. Really evaluate. Are you eating for nourishment, or are you eating for just pleasure alone? I think there is a healthy balance that you can find between the two. So I know this was a fire hose of information, so feel free to please ask any questions or clarifying comments. I'm happy to answer any of those about anything we covered today, and dive deeper too. There's always more that we can unpack with any of these topics. Coffee alone is one of those topics that we could go on and on about. Meditation, a topic unto itself, right? So thank you for watching. I hope this was valuable to you. And again, please let me know if there's more that you would like to understand. And I hope you have a great rest of your day. Bye.